We see almost weekly now of Black people being murdered and no justice. We've got ongoing issues with the cops that I don't know when that's ever going to end. How are Black people dealing with all these issues? How can we go about our daily lives without being so affected? Because it's hard to not be affected.
It's hard to not to be affected when you're seeing the images, because the images are creating trauma. What they are creating is what's considered, specifically with the races, racial trauma. And what is happening is the trauma that you are experiencing is actually forming a self-concept of yourself. And what ends up happening, that self-concept comes from what you believe about yourself, what other people believe about you. And trauma is a Greek word for emotional wound. So it distorts how you see yourself. So once you begin to see yourself through the eyes of the injustice, sometimes you can tend to feel less powerful and more vulnerable. People who are traumatized do not feel safe in their bodies, and especially if your body is Black. And so what we are dealing with is emotions of feeling not safe. We are feeling with anger. We are dealing with fear. All of those emotions that are happening, and all of those are stress related, which will drop stress chemicals inside of your body, cause all kind of sickness, illness, stomach pains, all of those different things. What we have to do is we have to begin to limit what we accept and how we see ourselves. You can't digest this all day and be okay. No more than you can sit up in an abusive relationship and be okay. You have to take bite-sized pieces, stay woke, but you don't have to choke, okay? And so what you have to do is, yes, you have to make sure that you are saying, what is enough for me? Now, let me tell you something. Everybody will have a different tolerance level. What affects me is this. I specifically in high school was bused to a white school where I endured people who boycotted us. I was one of the few Blacks there, one bus, and every day I was greeted with them throwing rocks and calling me the N-words. I remember people coming out and we had to leave. Our bus had to leave 15 minutes early because they wanted to riot against us. So all of those things have affected me. So I have to make sure that I am not re-traumatizing myself all the time. Now, let me tell you something. Secondhand trauma is real, but also the trauma that's already exists in your DNA is real as well. And so when you see that the cries of your great-great-grandmother are rising up, when you see that this and experience it, it still drops those chemicals into your system. You have to take power and not be pitiful in this situation. I see people feeling sometimes helpless. The sadness turns into what can I do? As you will see our sons, we will see our grandsons, we will see our husbands, we will see our brothers, and we will wonder, what is it that I can do? You have to take care of you. And see, you have to do what you have the power to do. You can't control everything else.
He loved it. And this brings me to the question, because we talk about this all the time. I'm so glad that we get to talk about this, because I was talking to you about this just this week, even with the not being able to protect my eyes and my spirit from everything that's going on without feeling guilty for not being more engaged like I should as a Black woman. So my question is, how do you toe that fine line without re-traumatizing yourself? And what are some of the physical activities or mantras that we can do and incorporate into our lives, and at the same time be able to ingest and digest properly what we're seeing and cope with it? Because, like Dante Wright, Adam Toledo, then you go around the same time this year, it was Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd trial is happening while all of this is going on. So it's like, how do you turn away from that without feeling like you need to see it? Because for so long it's like, have we not been paying attention? Have we been dismissing it? So how do we be I low-key just literally don't know how to behave right now.
You know, first of all, the fact that you turn your eyes away does not mean you have to turn your heart away. Your heart can be fully engaged in the process of justice and trying to heal. But let me tell you something. George Floyd won't be the only one who can't breathe. If you don't take care of yourself and put the mask on you first, you won't be able to breathe either. And you will be no good for anyone else. So the first thing you have to do is say, where am I? Process how you feel when you watch it. Just stop. Listen to yourself. I know what you're doing is you're redirecting your focus on somebody else and somebody else's pain, which is fine. But sometimes, guess what? That refocusing that you are doing on somebody else's pain, you've been trained to do that, because sometimes people don't grow up in houses where people are watching them. They will sit in houses and nobody is experiencing their pain. So you train and condition yourself not to pay attention to you. You go to the loudest thing ringing. I'm not saying that they are not worth paying attention to. I am saying you have to be in a healthy place to pay attention. And if it is disrupting your peace in a way where it is making you sick, where it is making you not perform well, you have to pause. Because as Black people, this thing, we all have to take little pieces that we can work with. We will not all solve just everything. You have a platform that you can work with, but this is the thing. What you want to do is pause and say, how am I feeling after just watching that episode? Learn to look at yourself. Learn to pay attention to yourself. Sit in the emotion. Am I feeling depressed? Am I feeling hopeless? Am I feeling fearful? Am I now wondering if my child, am I imagining the funeral of my husband or my boys? What am I doing? Once you decide what you are doing, you say, how do I minimize this traumatic experience? You know, well, a lot of times in the horror films, when people start keeping on going through the house, while they hear something creaking up the stairs, we be like, turn around, right? And so a lot of times we just, this creaking and we just still going. We just climbing those stairs and it's spooky. And so what you have to stop and say, okay, that was enough for me today. I got to turn this off. And I need to pray for the person. I need to process myself and never, ever watch it and don't do some self-talk.
Can I just jump in there really quick? This is what message that I need for you to say for our African-American community about this George Floyd, the trial that's going on. If we don't get the verdict that we know we should get, what is the best way that you're asking for our community to react? Of course, we want everybody to stay positive and not kill our own communities, because when we riot and rob our own communities, it does nothing. What advice could you give if we don't get the verdict that we know we should?
That's good.
I would say take the Stacey approach for Georgia. Once they put a roadblock in her, she went into a different direction. Okay, well, we're just going to take the corporations. Come up with another plan. If we can't get what we need through the courts, we're going to have to come up with another plan, a strategic plan. We can't burn down ourselves where we cannot operate. We have to come up and be strategic and not emotional. And I tell people this all the way to a divorce court. Don't be emotional, be strategic. So as a people, we have to be strategic and say, what's our next plan to make sure that people stop killing our people and seeing us as less than human. What we have to do, whether it's legislation, whether it's petition, whether it's marching, whether it is, but to do any of that, you got to be whole. And this is what we don't realize is this thing is not just a George Floyd on the neck. This system is on all of our necks.
Yes.
And if we don't recognize that it's all on all of our necks and we are not breathing as a people, we will continue to do the same thing and we will die a slow death as a people. So what we have to do is we gotta stop. We have to stop and say, okay, write it out. First of all, journal it. Release the emotions through stress. Tears. If you need to cry, cry, because the stress hormones come out. through
I
your
get that.
tears. Take the time to cry, to hold that stuff
What
in.
are you tired of
teaching-
crying, no, girl? We've been crying a lot. Selena made a statement earlier. She was like, listen here, I'm tired of our Black men trying and dying. So, you know what I mean? So,
And I'm actually tired of us, because we have a lot of passion in our voice and our demeanor and our personalities, And so when we express that as Black women, they always want to look at us as an angry Black woman, but we're just wrong about what we're talking about.
You know what? In 2020, if we don't know who's angry by now, we'll never know.
Okay.
We've seen who's angry. Okay.
Because I'm gonna tell you, we have seen a whole bunch of angry Karens
the
and
whole
kids
world
that we
stopped
want
and we watched the anger.
Love,
Okay.
before we
it's
go,
not Black women. It's not us.
So,
love, before we go, love, we could probably do a whole show with you. There's so
Yes,
much
we
trauma that
could.
we need to address, and we might have to bring you back another time where we
Please.
can have a full hour, because I think our
there's
people
some
need
steps you got to take. Yes.
I need to know.
I would love people to check you out and support you in your virtual counseling session, The Workplace. And I want to thank you for coming by. I know we're going to need you probably after this weekend, because it's a big week for Black America. It's a big week for America. And we all can learn a thing or two from you. So thank you.
We're at the crossroads. We're at the crossroads right here.
And I can tell you a strong Black woman queen too.
Yeah.
Because I can tell how powerful you are and your delivery of what you're saying. Like it's very direct and it's very focused. And so I would absolutely, I'll absolutely talk.
Really,
that is so sweet. I am among queens. I honor you all. I am just really honored that you would even see me and embrace me like you are.
Absolutely.
Much love.
Through the phone.
Love
through the screen.
Love, what you do is so needed, especially, and I'm so glad our people are throwing away that old school idea that's taboo to get therapy, and we need self-care is so important. I want to thank Love Mcpherson for being here. You can find her online at lovemcpherson.com. We're taking a quick break, and we'll be back with more Cocktails with Queen.